I've talked a lot about the ages of the planets in this course, because then we can see the progressive development of what we're really focusing on, in the sense of, okay, this is the child mind's time, this is the adult mind's time, this is the parent's mind's time, and so on. But we also have something called the maturation ages. And that's when a planet matures, which means this is when a person becomes capable of using that planet fully. Okay, that's essentially what it is. Until then, we're only using that planet to a fraction of the ability we have to use it. And then it gets mature, and now we are at our full ability. Now that doesn't mean we're going to be focused on using it a lot at that time, but we have the ability. We're not necessarily going to be in the age of that planet when it matures. In fact, we're probably not going to be in the age, most likely. And we may or may not be running the dasha of that planet. But if we're in the age and we're running the dasha, then yes, we're going to be using that planet a lot, and we're also going to peak our ability to use it. So this is when we become capable of it, in the full ability of what we have. So after that, it can serve us better. Now, if the planet is having some difficult avashtas, then when its maturation age comes, it's very, very difficult. Okay, if it has great avashtas, when the maturation age comes, you excel using that planet in a way that really benefits your life. Okay? So I have a course called, Ages of the Planets, where I talk about the maturation age. Throughout other courses, I have talked about maturation age. Very, very, very important. So I need to talk to them again in the context of the parent-adult children. So, the first planet that matures is Jupiter. Adult Jupiter is the first planet that matures. And again, adult planet Jupiter's job is to connect something greater than ourselves. To connect us to something bigger than ourselves, so that we don't get lost in the wounds, in the pain. That there's something more important, bigger, more important to us than our pain, essentially. That's the first planet to mature, and it matures at 16. Now, during these maturation ages, there's oftentimes a biological correspondence. There always is. We haven't come to understand all them. But 16 is when the body is very capable of having children. Women have the least percentage of birth defects, miscarriages, and etc., at 16. Believe it or not, okay? Before 16, chances of problems are very high. At 16, it's the lowest. From 16 onward, it tapers down very, very slowly until at late 20s at some point it starts, the chances of problems become greater and greater and greater in an escalated way, okay? But 16 has the lowest problems with giving birth to children, okay, and lowest birth defects. And so, okay, so at 16, the body is capable of procreating, fully procreating. Now, of course, when you have children, automatically there's something that's more important than you, okay? Something that you can get over your stuff for. That's the idea. So there's also, but there's, along with that biological ability, there's the internal ability of being able to live for something besides your pain, essentially, okay? Now, if a person has a good Jupiter, at this point in their lives, they're able to step past the burdens of life, the things that go wrong, and still move forward, because there's something that's more important to them than their pain. They recognize and have developed that ability fully. If Jupiter's in a difficult avashta, the person doesn't make that much progress during that age, and then throughout their lives, they're struggling to use Jupiter fully, okay? But at 16, we always get the full ability of the Jupiter, which means that, again, it's always a habitual ability with the avashtas, right? We're in the habit of it. So this is our ability, okay? So if someone's in the habit of getting up and running 10 miles a day, they have that ability to run 10 miles a day because they developed the habit of it, okay? If someone's in the habit of waking up and watching 10 hours of TV, they have that ability because they've gotten in the habit of it. the person who gets up and runs 10 miles a day is not going to be able to sit there and watch 10 hours of TV. He'll be fidgeting, jumping, he'll need to go, he won't feel right. The very habit he's formed will force him out the door to go on his run. Okay? So, it's all about habits. So, what we can say with maturation ages, it brings out and shows to us the habit we're in fully, the full habit. Okay? And if that's not a good habit, it's the time to change it. And if we don't change it during that time, we'll be having to work on changing it in our futures. Okay? But still at 16, we got into the full bore of the habit of Jupiter. Okay? How much of a habit are we into being lost in our pain versus doing and focusing on something good, something that we can do that's good, something more important than ourselves, and so on. Okay? Now, Jupiter age, of course, doesn't start until 32. So, it's not like Jupiter matures when we're living out the Jupiter life. We have responsibilities that are more important to ourselves. No, we're in the Venus age when Jupiter matures. We're in the age of, let's try to make healthy connections. Okay? However, Jupiter exalts Venus. So, having a mature Jupiter really, really helps you make the most of your Venus age. Because to exalt relationships, to exalt Venus, means to have the relationship to be something that's more important and bigger than your issues and your wounds and your pain. Okay? So, Jupiter becomes mature. We're biologically more ready for children. Which means we're biologically to take care of something else besides our own needs. And inwardly, we're able to see something as something more important than our wounds, more important than our immediate pain and needs. And that thing can be a child, Jupiter, or it can be a relationship, Venus, or it can be, it's always some relationship. It may not be a person, but it's our relationship to something in the world that somehow becomes something that helps us say, okay, forget it, I'm going to do this. I'm going to let go of my pain because I have this meaningful thing to live for. Okay? The next planet that matures is Sun. Sun matures at 21. So here we have this parent planet that says this is what you should do, matures at 21. So your ability to navigate what you should do amongst the voices of your parents and other people, we become mature in that at 21. That's why often at 21 there's a conflict with the father or a strong parental figure who says this is what you need to do, and your inner developmental parent is saying, no, that's not what I'm going to do. This is what I think I need to do. And there can often be a conflict there. So it's a time of asserting when a person, a person asserts that this is what I'm going to do. This is what I think is right. Regardless of these repercussions. Whereas another person might be saying, oh, don't do that. You have to do it this way. No, the Sun comes in and says, this is what I have to do based on my parent. So it's when a person's parental voice becomes louder and clearer in their own minds to where it's more important than the parental voice of their own parents. And so there's often a period of conflict during this time. Lots of kids leave or don't talk to their parents for a couple of years at this time. Something gets triggered, So it's a step of independence, but it's not really independence. It's not freedom. It's the independence to follow one's own parental mind. And if your parental mind is healthy, there is freedom to that. If your son's healthy, because it's telling you to do what you would do if you were truly free, to follow your inspirations, build the life that you are. If, on the other hand, your son is not in good avashtas, then it's not freedom. It's just bondage to a parental voice that doesn't even recognize who you are. Okay? But still, it's when the parental voice peaks. Okay? Now, of course, we don't have the age of the Sun, where our life is about, okay, this is what I am, I have to live according to how I am and follow that inspiration, which happens at 50. But we develop the core of that, the ability for that fully at 21. Okay? The next planet that matures after that, and this is really, really interesting, is the Moon matures at 24. So the child mind matures at 24. What's it called? The parent mind, sun, matures first. See, even when we're in the womb, when we're in the womb and we're out of the womb in that first year during the age of the moon, our parental, it's what our parents are doing that develops our child mind. Our child mind gets traumatized or not, feels connected or not, depending on what the parents are doing. So it's the parental force that dictates the nature of the child force. Okay? So it's no surprise that the parent planet sun matures before the child planet moon. Okay? So then 3 years later, the first child planet matures. And this is the planet of I need connection. Okay? Let me also say one thing too. Go back to the sun real quick. So when the sun matures at 21, we're in the age of Venus. Okay? Venus doesn't really like the sun. Venus doesn't like being in Leo. Venus debilitates the sun. Sun does not love Taurus either. It's starved there. So Venus is not really helping the sun out the way that Venus was helping Jupiter out by having at least that Jupiter was able to help Venus at least when it matures, have a better Venus age, because Jupiter matures and helps Venus gets exalted, right? But nothing like that happens with the sun and Venus. So while you get your ability to follow your parental voice, it doesn't do anything to help your age of Venus. Okay? It's just your parental voice is often the thing that makes your Venetian life not work. Nope, this is what I have to do. So no, thank you. Nope, I have to live my life this way. My relationship has to be this way. And you don't qualify. So even though you feel good, go away. So oftentimes the sun, once we follow that parental voice, actually gets in the way of relationships during the Venus age. Now, with a healthy sun, where a person is really following their inspirations and knows the life they have to build, that keeps a person from getting stuck in the wrong relationship. But an unhealthy sun, it can be doing the opposite. It can keep them from developing working relationships. Okay? All right, so then the moon matures at 24, and now the child mind is mature. So that means our ability to connect matures at 24. Okay? Now that seems really odd because the first year of life is always about connection. But the difference is at 24, it's our ability to connect more as ourselves, as an adult person. We're in an adult age now. Venus is the age we're running. Venus exalts the moon. So, our ability to connect as an adult matures at 24. Before that, when we're 1 year old, we have the ability to connect to other people as a child, right? As this needly helpless thing that needs connection and love and nourishment. Okay? And once we leave the age of the moon, we're beginning the process of learning to connect as an adult. And that process matures at 24 when the moon matures. And connecting as an adult is a very, very different thing. And you learn to do that, you mature in that in the age of Venus, which is the planet of give and take, share. I give you what you need, you give me what I need. So the difference between connecting as a child and connecting as an adult, being stroked as a child and being stroked as an adult, is that as a child, you get the stroking, you get the care, you get the nourishment, and the best you can do is look cute. Okay? As an adult, you get the stroking, you get the nourishment, you get the care, and you give all those back in the form that the person needs. So the difference of when you connect as an adult, you're trading. You're not just getting it for free, you're trading. So during the age of the moon, we mature in our ability to know that there's a give and take to getting our connections made. And now we're connecting as an adult. Now, if your moon's in good shape, you're learning to connect as a healthy adult to make relationships work. If your moon's not in good shape, then you might still keep living life, and during that time you might be living life like a baby, expecting all this nourishment and stroking, but not really giving it back. And then, of course, you might get stuck essentially in still trying to connect as a child. And if a person goes through life still trying to connect as a child, their relationships won't work. Their adult relationships won't work. They'll work for a little while until somebody finds out you're not connecting as an adult, and then they have to leave, because only adults can have long-term relationships. You know, anyone who's had children, you think of how much sacrifice, not negative sacrifice, but how much energy you have to put out in that first year of life, keeping that child content and happy and da-da-da. Imagine if you had to do that for 50 years. If you couldn't do anything that was important to you for 50 years because you have this baby. Well, it's the same in relationships. With people who don't develop that healthy ability at 24 to have a give and take connection, okay, an adult connection is moon. After knowing a person, after a year, their relationships start going south, because a person can be there that much for a person for a year. No one can do it for more years than that without getting severely worn out. Okay? Parents who have children and then 13 months after the first one they have another one, they might be in this state of always having a moon age person around them that needs their constant care for 15, 20 years even, you know, and that is very taxing. Okay? And if that's all a person wants to do, if that's their ambition, no problem. But if they have any other inspirations, any other experiences they want to live, no, they're not going to be able to. Okay? So, the age of the moon is very, very important. So it's very, very important in the context of, okay, we're maturing to connect as adults now, which means we're becoming mature and connecting our child mind in an adult world. That's the difference, okay? An adult world works a different ways. The adult world is the Venus world of I have something and I offer it, you have something I offer, and we connect while we're doing it. And it's mutually beneficial, okay? And mutual rewarding and mutually fulfilling. Okay, so after that happens at 24, it's no surprise that a year later, at 25, Venus matures, okay? So now, your ability to make a good decision about the long-term commitments you should make is finally there, which means before 25, you really don't have your full ability to make the best long-term decisions. At 25, you develop your ability fully to make the best long-term commitments. So that means anyone who gets married before 25 has not fully developed their ability to make long-term connections. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean people don't get married for 25 and have success. You can, if your Venus is good. In astrology, we have something where we study a chart to see, okay, when are they going to get married? First, let's find out if they can have an early marriage, a middle marriage, or a late marriage. Okay? An early marriage is before 25, 25 or less. Okay? A mid-marriage is 25 to 30. After 30, it's starting to be considered a late marriage. So, when all the factors are really favorable, a person can get married before Venus matures. Okay? And it can be a good marriage. All right? So during the age of the maturation of Venus, this is what's happening. And it's a huge, important time because we're in the age of Venus. We're trying to achieve this goal of making long-term commitments to build the foundation of our lives, our relationship with the world, the long-term commitment to that, what we're going to give the world, what's the world going to give us back, our relationship with a person, what are we going to give a person, what are they going to give us back. Those two foundations we're trying to land. And finally at 25, after being in that Venus age for 13 years, finally we have our full ability there to do it. Okay, so it's a learning process, this age of Venus. All right. All right, the next planet to mature after that is another child mind planet, and that is Mars. So, Mars is the planet of doing the hard things we have to do, putting up the fight, the struggle, the huge effort to get the things that we need, essentially to be okay. Mars is not about getting the things we want, okay? In a really truthful sense, there's no such thing as want. There really is no such thing as want, okay? We can almost say it's a false word. Now, we have wounds, and the wounds want to be fulfilled, and so those wounds make us want something, but when we have those things, we're not fulfilled. So it's not a want, it's just, I don't want to feel this emptiness, and that is running around like a crazy person trying to figure out how to stop it. That's oftentimes what want is, okay? Now, that's not a true want, though. That's just the wounds that need to be healed, okay? A true want would be something that could be fulfilled, okay? Now, they have an old term of using this word want. For instance, he was wanting for nothing. That means he has everything he needs in life to be okay. So if you look in the context of the older meaning of this word want is to have something, not because it's going to make you happy, because it's actually necessary. If you're not wanting, you have a roof over your head. You have good food. You have some people in your life you can count on. Okay? Then you're really not wanting. All right? So Mars is the planet that's there to make sure we have no wants, which means the things that we actually need are fulfilled. Okay? That's what he's trying to fulfill and achieve. Now, when a person, Mars matures, they gain the ability to understand what it is they actually really need to put their energy towards to be okay. Okay? Meaning to not be wanting. 28 can be a critical age for maturation. You have all these people that die, 27 to 28, called the 27 Club. Some of them die at 28, okay, in their 28th year. But they're all grouped into the 27 Club. Look at the lifestyles of many of these people during that time. How many of these people died of drug addictions? They have, really, when you come down to it, they have everything a person needs, but they kill themselves with a drug addiction, with a drug overdose. Because that bad Mars, and if you look at the charts of these people, you'll see they don't have a good Mars. Those troublesome Mars are not allowing them to differentiate what they need and their emptiness. And so in an effort to fulfill their emptiness, they actually kill themselves on accident oftentimes, when actually they're really not wanting in any way. But their Mars is so disturbed they can't tell the difference. A starved, a disturbed Mars is extremely hungry. Okay? It's not just hungry for what it actually needs. There's a hunger that's beyond that can't be fulfilled by anything. And so people try to fulfill it with something else. That something else is always not good for the person. At an extreme, it can kill them. Okay? But the ideal of the Mars maturation is a person recognizes, I have this much energy. I want to use my energy to be meaningful. So, I'm going to focus on what I really need to be okay. Because, Mars is the child mind saying, I really need this to be okay, and no matter what, I'm going to scream until I get it. As an adult, that means I really need this to be okay no matter what. I'm going to fight, I'm going to push to get it. Okay? Now, if Mars is afflicted, a person didn't get some needs met no matter how much they screamed, and they don't know how to get needs met, and the result of that is a lot of old hunger. And then they might try to make up for that old hunger, but you can't ever make up for what was missed in the past, right? And so that can drive to excesses, to the point of drug overdoses possibly, and eventually the person, only option is to recognize, what do I really need? How am I not really going about what I really need and carrying around this hunger that's driving me crazy and disturbing my life? Okay? How can I go about really getting this need met? And is it really a true need? Do I really need that? Or is it just a wound trying to escape? So the maturation of Mars is trying to understand, are the things I'm putting my energy into something that is really I need, or is it a want of the wounds? Is it a true want, meaning I need it to be okay? Or is it that rampant want of the wounds that can never be satisfied? So our ability to recognize those two things, because we all have those two things. We all have wounds that are desperate for something, and we all have the ability to recognize, really, I just need this and I'll be okay. The age of Mars is when we recognize that, we recognize those things. We gain the ability to differentiate between those, and hopefully, with the good Mars, we will use our energy more wisely and not waste our energy. Okay? Then we're capable of doing more because we're not wasting energy. According to Parashara, Mars is the greatest malefic. We always say, Saturn's the most malefic, Saturn's the most malefic. But according to Parashara, the greatest malefic is actually Mars than Saturn. Okay? And that's very, very true. But we see and blame Saturn so much because he's so often starved, whereas Mars is rarely starved. But when Mars is troublesome, his capability to create trouble is huge. That's why way more people who die young will die young during the age of Mars, the maturation of Mars, than they will die during the maturation of Saturn. Okay? All right, so that's what we're learning during the age of Mars. Now, also, Mars is a person's strength of character. It's their strength to exert in a direction that's important to them. Okay? We develop that more fully. That's the time endurance athletes do the best. 28 is their peak time. For marathon runners, they're fastest at 28. Tour de France guys are best performing are 28. There's a maturation of using our energy for what really needs to be done during that time and not wasting it on other things. Okay? And of course, Mars is maturing. We have the age of Mars, where it means that we're in the struggle of, I need this, in the age of 1 to 3. That's when it's such a struggle. It's all about, I have to exert myself to get something I need. That's what it's all about from 1 to 3. But our ability to recognize what we really need versus an empty want of the wounds and how we're going to direct our energy matures at 28. Okay? The next planet that matures after 28 is Mercury. It matures at 32. Okay? Now this is really a surprise. When you think about it, the first adult planet is 3 to 12, the age of Mercury. Now we're developing adults. We're learning how to learn. We're learning about things. We're learning the ability to observe and learn and gain information and try things and see what works and see what doesn't. And our ability to do that matures at 32. It takes that long for this ability to mature. What's really remarkable about that is because it shows that what a high ability this is of humans to do this. Because look how long it takes to learn this ability. It's the first adult planet we have. We spend 9 years of our lives in the age of Mercury, where most of our life is about Mercury. Yet we haven't even reached the peak of using our Mercury. And we're going to, and it's amazing what the mind can do from 3 to 12, And then we're going to keep developing that ability. It's constantly getting developed in peaks at 32. And at the 32, the age of Venus ends and the age of Jupiter begins. Okay? So Mercury matures right at the junction of Venus and Jupiter, It's like, what do we have to try and learn the most in? The Venus things. Mercury's a friend of Venus, right? So after that age of Venus, and all the trials and errors that the age of Venus, trying this job, this path, this person, after all those trials that have to happen during the age of Venus, now Mercury is finally capable, at our full capacity. And Now we move into the age of Jupiter, and we will use that more mature Mercury, that more capable Mercury, to progress us along the Jupiter age. Because in every age, it all starts with, let me try this. Okay? Now, we don't continue to develop Mercury's ability in the age of Jupiter, because the age of Jupiter has so much to do about the flash of insight. Oh, I got it. I know this is it. I don't even need to test it. I just know. That's Jupiter. It's an inspiration, flash of inspiration from inside. This is important to me. I know I don't even have to test this anymore. One of the reasons we're able to do that is because of all the experiences given by the age of Venus, all the experiences that develop Mercury's ability to, all the trials of Mercury's ability to try and observe. All those things we've learned, all the things we tried that didn't work, give us the ability to just know things after that. Essentially, if you try lots of things, eventually you just know what the answer is, because there's nothing else left. It just becomes clear. And so in the age of Jupiter, we have this clarity more. Okay? And really what's important at that time is I need to connect to something greater than myself. Okay? That's what Jupiter age is about. What's more important than me and my wounds? All right? Now, when you recognize what there is, it isn't about trying, because it's more important. In the age of Venus, it is about trying. Mercury and Venus are friends to each other. They delight each other. Because at that point, a person's trying to get their material life worked out, their physical life worked out, the life with people worked out. And they need to have things that work. Okay? And what works, they have to try and find it out. So they really need Mercury there. They're using the Mercury. So Mercury's growing, learning. 32, Jupiter age starts. Mercury's mature at its full capacity. And now it's like Jupiter age is about expressing the creative in us, the thing that can come through me that's more important than the pain I have. You don't try that. You don't say, let me try this, try this. It's not about trying, because it's something that just flows out of the self. We don't have to try things that are of the self. We have to try things in the Venus world, the outer world. The things of the self, we just have to let them flow out. Okay? The Jupiter age is more about that. So after Jupiter age starts and Mercury maturation at 32, we have Saturn maturation at 36. Okay? So we have another parent mind maturing. And this parent mind is the don't do this. Don't do this. Which means our parent mind, our ability to listen to our parent mind that says, don't do this, is getting stronger until 36. Which means until 36, we're going to make a lot of big mistakes. After 36, our adult mind that says, don't do this, is supposed to be more mature, that we don't get into as much trouble. Okay, keep us out of trouble. But if Saturn's not in good shape, you can find yourself in a heap of trouble at 36, and you can still find yourself making a lot of mistakes after 36. And so it's very, very common for people to make a lot of mistakes after 36. If you have a good Saturn, your Saturn gets fully mature to say, don't do this is not you, this will get you in trouble. Your ability to hear that true voice, based on who you really are, is peaked, and you're going to have a lot less problems after that. But that's when our ability, whatever that ability is, peaks. Of our ability to not get into trouble, basically, because we're able to listen to the true don't do voice. Because there is a true don't do voice. But usually it's lost because Saturn has the most enemies. And so while a person's capable of not making mistakes after 36 of any significance, Saturn is generally going to be starved enough or something enough that we still continue to make mistakes after 36. But if someone has a really wonderful Saturn, at Saturn maturation, their ability to listen to their parent mind and their parent mind truthfully saying, don't do this, peaks, and then they don't have no cause to fall into big trouble. Okay? And life can be a lot smoother after that. So by 36, all your planets have gotten mature. And the last planet to mature was Saturn. The parent planet says, don't do this. What that means is, the thing that takes us the longest to figure out is what not to do. To not do the wrong things. That's the hardest things to figure out. Okay? And that's very evident, isn't it? Okay. We get into more trouble because of things we do that we shouldn't, than we get into trouble by doing things that, by not doing things that we should have. Okay? All right. Now, after Saturn matures, we've got Rahu matures at 42, and Ketu matures at 48. And during that age, during those periods are the hormone, the endocrine system shift in men and women, and causes men to be more in their feminine self, and women to be more in touch with their male self. And that creates a huge crisis because men tend to repress more of their female stuff, women tend to repress more of their male stuff, and when that comes up and starts coming and saying, hey, here I am, it can create a lot of conflict in a person's life, because if there's something that's been heavily suppressed that needs to be fulfilled, and you didn't know about it, you can set up your whole life to not fulfill that thing and then realize you need to, and therefore we have the midlife crisis during that time. Anyway, I talk about that plenty in the Rahu Ketu courses. It's not so much a part of PAC because Rahu and Ketu don't rule, these planets. However, whatever planets with your Rahu or Ketu, whatever sign Rahu or Ketu in, that planet, adult, parent, or child, will be strongly impacted during those maturation ages. Okay? Now, with maturation ages, they're very important. When you see a planet's maturing, focus on that planet. Recognize that if it's a healthy planet, the healthy parent, adult, or child mind is really going to make their life work out well during that time. If it's not a good planet, then the parent, adult, or child mind during that age is going to bungle things up, find itself in a huge world of mess, okay, and difficulty. So they're very, very important years of a life, and it's really a more like 2-year span. Okay, so the planet matures at a certain age. So say like Sun matures at 21. So from 20 to 21, there's an accelerated maturation during which the effects can really come in. But the effects can also be, the most significant effects may also happen between 21 or 22. So the planet as it matures, it's a 2-year window where that planet's very focused. And anytime during those 2 years, the main impact could come through. So 20 to 22 for the Sun, 23 to 25 for Moon, 24 to 26 for Venus, and so on. Okay? Rahu is, 41 to 43, and so on. Just add a year on each side, and that's when that planet's, in some accelerated stages of growth, which means some very interesting, good or bad things can happen during those windows. Okay? So I've talked about these a lot, but that's just a little more in the context of parent, adult, children. The more I do astrology, the more I rely on these simple things like maturation ages of the planets, and never look at a chart without looking at those, just jumping and looking at the dashas and ignoring those. You can say, oh, you're in a great dasha, but then Saturn's maturing, and Saturn's starred by all 3 planets, and yeah, they might be in a good dasha, but 35 to 37 is one of the worst things in their life manages to happen, with deep regrets that maybe take them 10, 20 years to get over, And you miss that because the dasha looked good, So, look at ages, look at maturation ages, then look at dashas, okay? Otherwise, you'll miss some critical things. And always look at eclipses. Those can, again, there could be things happening due to eclipses that dashas don't show. That can make what looks like a good dasha be a good dasha, except there's this bomb that goes off in the middle of the dasha, okay? All right, thank you.